I think I'm being replaced.
I want to thank Tom for spelling me. Everybody's told me as soon as more people got in the room, it was going to be warmer. They weren't telling me the truth. I would like to introduce Tomasz Stepien, who is president of the Firearms United Network. He is going to discuss gun control in the EU and its export to the U.S. Very important. If you'd welcome him, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me here and having the opportunity to speak. I will try to be brief because I know that I'm in a very tight spot. I'm the last person standing between you and the drinks at the reception. Let's start with the situation in the EU. 2 words about Firearms United Network. We are a pro-gun organization. We started in Poland, that's our headquarters is, and we operate across the whole Europe, mostly dealing with the European Commission and the Brussels as the seat of the pan-European government. Unelected officials, all of them, by the way. Nevertheless, the short historical situation on the European Firearms Directive, which we simply call the EU gun ban, because that's what they're trying to do. It came to life in 2015 after the terrorist attacks in Paris on the Bataclan Club and the Charlie Hebdo. In the typical knee-jerk reaction, the European Commission has decided to do something with terrorists, so they started to regulate law-abiding citizens. So we have exactly the same situation as in the US. Now, in 2 years, they've created the monster, which has started with prohibition to possess any item which visually resembles fully automatic weapons. We diluted that down to the point that this is more or less acceptable for this 28, sorry, I wasn't checking the news for the last 5 minutes, so I don't know what's the current UK position on Brexit. That's why I'm mixed up on the numbers. But nevertheless, it is supposed to be implemented across 27 countries with different legal systems. The deadline for implementation was September 2018. None of the countries actually hit this deadline. Current status for today is that 19 countries is still not implementing the directive, or they are progressing somehow to do something. 8 of them actually finished the implementation. Now, on the players which we have on the market, the countries who are actually behind this EU gun ban, you have the usual culprits, which is the UK, Germany, France, Spain, Belgium, and Netherlands. And the opposing faction is a Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, and Finland. There were many kind of descriptions in the mainstream media about this division: old Europe versus new Europe, Western countries against the Eastern countries. I even found out a statement that was a civilized countries versus the neo-barbarians. Okay, I can be a neo-barbarian, I don't mind. For me, the division is very different, because for me, the division is exactly the countries who still remember the Russian occupation and the ones who never experienced this, right? So that's what it is in a nutshell. On the export, well, I don't think that your market will be affected because we're not exporting that much guns to the States. The field which will be affected are collectors. And let me give you a very short example of a very small and minor country called Luxembourg. Small country, but very wealthy, a lot of collections, both state-owned and the private ones. Really, really great firearms in collections. So For about 3 years, the collectors community in Luxembourg were kept on a steady diet of a chicken shit, and they were told that nothing bad will happen to them because the government is only after reasonable gun laws, right? I mean, we know the expression. We just want to have the reasonable solutions on the table. About 3 months ago, the cold shower came because the information they've got was that, first of all, the European directive will be implemented to the letter. No exemption which exists in the document will be implemented in Belgium because that's not a compulsory part of the document. As far as the directive contains the new rules on the marking and the new places on the firearms when you need to put serial numbers, like a chamber in visible places and so on and so forth, all the pieces in the museums and private collections are to be marked according to the new standard, which pretty means destruction of the historical artifacts. And the worst part is the last here, icing on the cake, is that no item and no collection, either state-owned or private, can be moved outside of Luxembourg prior to the implementation. So the collectors cannot save their collections by moving them abroad. Talk about a respect for a private property. So whenever someone tells you something about the reasonable gun laws, tell them Luxembourg. Because that's their aim, that's what they want to do. Total destruction of the historical artifacts in private possession. And again, those cannot be moved to the US, for example, because it's forbidden by the law. So that's an uphill battle which we fight in Europe, and that's why I believe it is very important for us to be in touch with you guys here, because we need to exchange the information. You know, I always say that you are blessed with Soros and Bloomberg. In Europe, we have just Soros. That's the only difference. But the modus operandi is the same. Foundations, NGOs, marches, same kind of work they do and the same goals they have. So we need to be in touch, we need to exchange the information. And oh, by the way, the latest in the European Union they are after at the moment, it just resurfaced 2 weeks ago, is a ban on lead ammunition. So exactly the same story, exactly the same thing. And with that, thank you very much for your attention. That's all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you.